Cass County Library Board of Trustees. Lori, let's take roll call.
Let's do the pledge real fast.
I'm discombobulated today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What's the black bird up on
I noticed that too. I don't know.
I saw it earlier today.
For added drama.
The raven never
I
will.
know, I'd like to start.
All right. Lori, would you please call roll?
Sure. Vicki Klein?
Here.
Sherry Peters?
Here.
Dennis Minnick?
Here.
Diana Larson?
Here.
Diane Hahn?
Here. All right. Approval of the agenda, are there any changes? No changes? So I'll entertain a motion for the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approval of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Consent agenda, you have your minutes and your financial report. And any questions, comments? We have a budget highlight that the director gave us. Any? We did well on the budget, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. 81% by the end of the year.
Yeah, so
That's
thank
good.
you to Lori and all,
Yeah.
Lee and Robin for following things closely, and, anyway. And we saved some money, so that's good. Any questions? Oh, I do have one. When we get that refund from the government that, like, we sold old computer equipment or something, where does that go back into? The account that we bought it out of? Or does it just go in a general revenue line, or what?
We would just put it back in general revenue.
Okay.
Have you actually had any of that to process yet? Has it come through to you
Yes.
from Gov Deals?
Yes, and we just use it as, revenue. We don't put it back in
You don't
supplies or
reevaluate.
anything. We don't credit any, no.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
Yeah.
No ideas there now. Okay. All right, I will entertain a motion then for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Diana. And I will second it. Can we do this with a general, or do we do a roll call on this one? I forget.
We usually do majority, I think.
All those in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right. No public comments? And no unfinished business. So, first thing off on new business is the Municipal Services Advisory Agreement. You have it from Steeple.
Steeple, I think.
Steeple.
That's the way I say it, and no one
Yeah.
corrected me, so.
Okay. You have the original one in 2021 and the current one for 2025. It's pretty much the same one, except a little bit of increase in cost. So, any questions for Robin on it? I think I was the only one here when we started this in 2021, and we really needed direction on how to handle the levy increase and the budgeting and policy for, we didn't have any financial policies hardly at all. And Mike and his staff directed us that way. So, if any other questions, comments? Do I hear a motion to approve the Municipal Services Advisory Agreement?
So moved.
Thank you, Dennis. A second? Second. Thank you. Lori, would you do a roll call, please?
Vicki Klein?
Yes?
Sherry Peters? Yes. Dennis Minnick?
Yes.
Diana Larson?
Yes.
Diane Hahn?
Yes. All right, thank you. Moving on to our policy revisions, you have those. They have been reviewed by our attorney. So I think, am am I right that if it's in red, that was the attorney's recommendations, and if it's in blue, was that from you and the staff?
Yes.
Okay. We will,
Greg, legal counsel.
okay. We'll start off, questions on social media. I had asked Pat, if someone proofreads before it's posted, or is there one person in the branch that just does the Facebook or whatever? And she says, there are people that will proofread for correctness.
Yes, there's not a specific designated person at each branch. There are people that are administrators for the branch pages. They're just
Okay.
assigned in the Facebook settings, but they work on them usually as a group and then read them before they're posted.
So if we see a children's programming, you know, sixth grade and under, our children's specialists probably work on it,
More
right?
than likely.
Usually.
Mhm.
And teen, and then adult home, okay.
Right. It's not hard and fast, but anything on the CCPL main page is posted and edited and created by our new marketing
A
person.
marketing person, okay. Other questions?
I know it was before my time, but there'd been discussion about the content of the social media policies, or what we could post. That's not covered in this. That's covered like under Robin's discretion, or?
You gotta remember, if I can speak up,
Sure.
this is employees.
Right.
Employees post it on their own social media sites.
Oh,
I would think that's what people posting, as part of their job.
No. It's personal.
Oh, okay.
Personal sites, what they can and cannot do. It can also include a lot of what you post here. I mean, some of the guidelines would be the same. You're not gonna post, as the library, unless you can give it specific, authorization to do so.
Right.
so it's not the library's social media, the employee's social media.
There is a Venn diagram where they coincide, yes, but primarily this is for use of social media by employees.
Okay, okay,
And then the notes in the second paragraph, 512, it says this policy applies to all employees, volunteers, interns, and other individuals performing services for the library. It governs social media use when speaking on behalf of the library, using library systems and such and so forth. So what this means is that this is gonna govern the library's speech, but there is, like I said, there's part of this where the employees can be involved. The employees are involved when an employee purports to speak on behalf of the library.
So this is their Facebook page.
Yes. So you can restrict, yeah, there's the limitations. Generally, a government agency has to be very careful telling an employee what they can and cannot post on social media.
Right.
All right.
And so, but the library does have authority to tell an employee what they can and cannot post on social media if that employee is purporting to speak on behalf of the library. So if I'm a library employee and I want to post a political opinion on my own Facebook page, but it has nothing to do with the library, and I'm not saying it has anything to do with the library, that's completely protected.
right.
It has nothing to do with that. But if I'm going on there and I'm saying, as an employee of the Cass County Public Library System, here's what I think, that starts to get a little bit more gray.
Could we change the title from social media to social media of, or personal social media of employees? I mean, I thought this was for the library.
We're still under personnel.
Okay, so it's, okay,
Correct.
I got it.
Keep under the personnel policies, those are
Okay.
directed to the people.
What about an employee who is disgruntled about their job getting on social media and talking about their position at the library and they're upset about it?
That's gonna be a gray area for the most part. You're allowed to amend under the First Amendment about what you see as long as they are not purporting to act on behalf of the library. Now, if they said, I am an employee of the Cass County Public Library, and I think, if they start to discuss areas outside of their own employment, that's an issue. But you typically have the option to, I mean, the right to vent about your job for the most part. Now, if they're venting about somebody else's treatment, that could be a different situation. Because they're saying, I'm an employee, and I'm observing this activity in the library, and I'm you know, talking about it to me. That becomes a different situation, but.
Because they're allowed to talk about their wages,
Mhm.
any of that. They're protected by law.
And there,
More than one law.
yeah, and there is an element of whistleblower protection as well, so if they were
I knew
reporting
that
what
was
they,
coming up here.
yeah, if they're reporting what they see as something that is unethical or mismanagement of funds or something like that, you really need to be careful about, you know, they should be given a little more leeway than just complaining.
Okay,
But with 90 to 100 employees, now not everybody has a Facebook or an Instagram or a TikTok or whatever, but how do you catch it? Or you don't catch it?
If it's just spoken to somebody else, there's nothing,
No.
and this policy is not gonna address that, but if it's, mostly just for social media, that's gonna be out there for a long time, if not permanently, and, you wanna make sure that you're cautious about how you regulate that. And
Okay.
if you're regulating it, then it's only when the individual is attempting to speak on behalf of the library.
Well, then this dark blue part where it says that the library director, only the library director and an individual authorized by the library director may delete or remove a post, comment, or other activity on official library social media. So would that be if this employee put something on our site?
So if that would be a
Okay.
situation where, say, your administrator, who may not be the library director, decides I've had enough of something and I want to post it, because I have authority and access to post on the library's Facebook account, something like that, you're authorized to remove that. That's not their speech, that's the library's
Right,
speech.
yeah.
But the problem exists when you run into a situation where somebody is using their own social media to comment on the library's social media account. You can conceivably remove that, but that's why this protection is in here, that there's a high bar to remove that type of speech. So if it's, the example that I always use for this is if somebody, you know, the library says, hey, we're adopting this policy, and you have an employee who weighs in and says, as an individual, I think this is bad for Harrison, or bad for Cass County. That's something that they should probably be allowed to say, as long as they're not disclosing confidential information. And so I would leave that there, I wouldn't remove that under this part of the policy. However, if they respond to social media and they're trying to sell Tupperware, that's something that can come up entirely, because it has nothing to do with the political discourse.
If they tag the library, so it shows up on their Facebook page and the library's Facebook page, we can go in and take it off our page.
You can get it
Somewhat.
off your page, yeah.
I
Yes.
think we have to approve any tags to actually go through, so they wouldn't
Okay.
automatically
Yeah.
post for us, we'd have to approve.
But
So, my understanding of it, and this may be oversimplified, but because we are like a limited public forum, if we post something on social media and we leave the comments open and someone makes comments, we have to be very careful about going in and deleting
Right.
anything, otherwise we're starting to get into free speech territory. So that's why there's a very high bar and a limited number of people by policy that are allowed to manipulate it, because there are potential legal implications to doing so.
yeah, if somebody who has nothing to do with the library wants to comment on your policy, absolutely, you have to leave that there. If it's an employee that's covered under this, then there's a little bit more of a gray area, because you have to determine whether or not they're speaking as an individual, using their First Amendment rights, attempting or purporting to speak on behalf of. And if they're purporting to speak on behalf of the library, that's not to say you have, you know, unfettered authority to remove that comment, but if it meets this high bar and you feel that legally it's something that can be removed, then you can take those steps. It's always a word of caution. If you're gonna limit any sort of commenting on social media as a public entity or quasi-governmental entity like this, you just have to be very careful to make sure you preserve the First Amendment.
Okay. Any more questions? Shall we go through all 6 of them and then go back and vote, or do you want to vote for one?
Let's do it as a group.
Okay. The next one is dismissal.
I have nothing on that.
I didn't have any changes on that. Any questions? All right. Moving on to recognition awards. Pretty cut and dried there. Okay. No gold watch, huh? Okay. All right, political activities of employees. All right. This is how our employees act while on duty.
Yeah.
Not away from the library.
Correct.
Okay.
I've got a few things. Let's see. That first paragraph is great. I didn't know if we could just add a word. It says, directed towards supporting or opposing political party, a candidate for public office. So it's a party, a candidate, or a ballot measure. It's not limited to the fundraising, et cetera. Okay. I didn't know if, I mean, there are things that are political, and we're trying to be a neutral entity. There are things that are political that are not promoting one of the parties. It's not promoting one of the candidates. It's not promoting a ballot measure, but it is promoting an agenda. And is there just a way that, without infringing on free speech, adding the word agenda? And so if the library is supposed to be neutral, then the employee, what they're putting out there, should be neutral. Down below it says, and I thought this was really great. I just thought, if just adding that, what is permitted, and it says engage in such activities on their own time, whatever they want to do, that's fine, but they're not to use the library resources, equipment, or paid work time for political activities. And so I was just like wondering, equipment, would a bulletin board or a door or a wall or something be considered, it's library property, and to put up things that might not be, say, go vote for so-and-so, but it is a hot topic politically. A lot of things are political, but there are certain things that are obviously political, and having, just adding that word.
So I think the difficulty with agenda is that's more of a personal decision. As it's defined in the code as you have it here, it's, candidates supporting a political party, public office, or a ballot measure. And so that's where you're really limited to. Those are situations where you don't want the library to be seen as interfering in a political race, anything like that. If it's an agenda, as I see it, or say a social issue or some political issue that's not tethered to a candidate or a ballot or anything like that, that's where you run into a gray area where the employee may be expressing their personal opinion, as opposed to an employee using the library or purporting to act on behalf of the library and endorsing a political opinion or a political candidate.
But is that okay for an employee to promote their personal opinion? I just wrote a few notes.
Third bullet there. What does that third bullet
Yeah.
under permitted allow or stop, prevent?
That means that if they're going to put something, say they're gonna have a bulletin board, you have to have a content neutral policy for anything related to the library. So if you allow any sort of, sorry, and I apologize because I'm jumping into this. I know Lindsay was ill
Sure.
and couldn't make it tonight, so bear with me. The difficulty you have is that if they're using library facilities, say a bulletin board, something in public, that can be restricted in a certain way. The difficulty is you cannot restrict, say an employee has
A shirt.
a shirt
Yeah.
or a picture on their desk or something, especially the more isolated that is. Like if they have a back office, is different than somebody sitting out here working the front desk, because the spectrum is sort of what looks like it is being proposed on behalf, or on that. Let's see, sorry, I'm getting tongue tied a little bit. What is the library purporting to say? So if you have a bulletin board that has a political agenda on it, that's completely different than an individual employee who has a shirt or a button or something like that. That's a little bit of a different area there. Now, the problem that you run into with this is that if you are going to restrict speech on, if you're going to use a content neutral policy to restrict speech on library facilities, and I say facilities widely, not the building, but bulletin boards, those types of things, is it has to be completely content neutral. So if you restrict one thing, you cannot add something else. So if you say, we don't want a Halloween bulletin board, for example, you can't do Valentine's Day. So that's kind of, and those are very mild examples, but if you're going to start picking one thing over the other, you might as well just not pick anything at all other than something that is completely neutral in terms of its meaning, that sort of thing. So if you don't want a Halloween, you can't have, Christmas. If you can't have Christmas, you can't have, and I use the calendar because that's sort of.
Right. One thing is when an employee does this, it can communicate, doesn't always, but it can communicate that this is something this library supports. And so would it be legal to talk to a particular employee and just say, you legally have the right to do this, but you might want to reconsider because it's communicating that Cass County Public Library.
I think that starts to get into who has the authority to communicate that to the employee. That's going to be more of I'd say an HR issue or an administrative issue, in terms of who's going to address that employee's conduct. Because when the board addresses it, say for example, if you were to decide to do something, then it's the library's speech entirely. And so you want to make sure that if there's a concern about an employee advancing some sort of political issue in the workplace, that's best addressed by the administration and the HR.
The director.
And then they would want to consider all the issues, and probably consult with legal if there tends to be an issue that needs to be addressed in that way.
Do we use those terms, content neutral policy? Do we have that? Do our employees, that we try to be content neutral or not?
We made an edit to our social media guidelines a year ago,
Okay.
year and a half ago. That's, outlined information that basically at the behest of the board that
Okay.
you wanted in there.
Yes.
So that's been done.
Okay. All right.
One more.
Yes.
Just my reasoning behind it. I had a lot of notes here, but I'm just going to refer to this. It's not the role of the library to mold the minds of its patrons. It's but to give the information and let the patron then conclude. And I was looking at this, and 70% is children. That is, I love it that children come to the library. But when you have 70% coming and then an employee has this out legally, it's influencing them. And I feel like the library's job is to give out all the information, let the people then decide. And I know what you're saying is all this legal stuff, but it just,
Yeah, and once again, the fine line is what is the library saying, what is the library's speech, and what is the employee purporting to say on behalf of the library. And so when you use a facility, that leans more in favor of restricting, you use the library's facilities to discuss something that may have a political overtone to it. That's a different situation than an individual employee speaking on their own behalf, wearing a button or having something on their desk. So I think it's a
Well,
little bit different.
so here's where the question comes to my mind. Use your time. When does library property, library facility, library desk, library phone booth, whatever, that is in a public area, what can be the guidelines as far as, you know, an individual, in other words, whatever, you know, an individual using it like, okay, so my own desk in my own office, okay. I share a desk in an office, it's kind of between me and whoever I share the desk with. I have a desk in a public area,
Right.
which is theoretically accessible to everybody. What?
And I don't think there is a good bright line for that because it runs a spectrum. You know, if it's out here on a bulletin board, that's in public view no matter what, especially with the number of patrons you have. If it's, you know, on the front desk and it's not, you know, it's behind a computer monitor, say somebody has a, you know, statue of something and they have it just in their workspace behind their monitor, it's not open to everybody, but they still have it in a public place. That becomes a little bit different. And then if you have a closed office that you're sharing, it's a little more private. And then if you go to your own individual office, it's a little more private. You have to, it's hard to make a bright line rule when you have that kind of a spectrum there. But if it's, say, the library's social media presence or the actual, you know, if somebody wanted to put a banner outside the building, that looks to an outsider as this is what the library is saying, as opposed to if somebody has a statuette on their desk of, you know, a religious figure or something like that, maybe that's gonna be, you know, if it was big and open to everybody coming down, that's a different thing than a small, and I'm trying to come up with examples here.
Right.
Right, yeah.
There's about 1 million Supreme Court cases on this kind of stuff you have to be wading through, but, you know, it's not, it's hard to develop a bright line rule to that simply because, you know, you have to look at it, at how it looks to the
Right.
reasonable person who's
Well,
gonna be observing it.
And I think that probably plays into the questions more and more is, you know, in a public area where it's not clearly defined, you know, that, you know, when can it be interpreted that it's the library doing this as opposed to an individual doing it?
Right. And I think that's just something that the administrative staff would make a judgment call on for the most part. And, you know, we would have to look at all those factors.
Thank you.
So you can have different standards then for employees that have a desk out in public versus a back, you know.
You can, it's not always, I mean, once again, there's, the standard is not necessarily what does the employee think of their, it's what does a reasonable person see is. So if I work at a front desk and I've got a 3-foot tall statue on my desk of a political figure, as opposed to a picture taped to the monitor where the public can't see it, that is a different calculus in terms of, is this person, you know, we all have the right to our own opinion. I wanted to put a picture of, you know, a religious figure on my monitor in my desktop. Public can't really see it unless they come around the corner and they're sitting in my seat. That's different than if I took a big one and got it framed and set it on my desk, exposed to everyone at the, and it's, once again, that's a very case-specific type of analysis and looking at that.
So it kind of depends on what the public can see, you know,
That's
your
part of it, yeah.
part of it,
Yeah.
part of it.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you for your comments. Any more? All right, whistleblower protection. Any clarifications anyone need? Just follow the chain of command, and if somebody comes to you, say you need to go to your branch manager, you need to go to your director or whatever. And then compliance and confidentiality. I think this is stressed a lot in your meetings, isn't it? Confidentiality. Yeah. All right. Any further question? I will make a motion. Okay, I have a request to vote on them one at a time. Lori will do social media first. Would you do roll call, please?
Becky Klein,
Yes?
Sherry Peters,
Yes.
Dennis Minnick,
Yes.
Diana Larson.
Yes,
Diane Hahn,
Yes.
All right, the next one would be dismissal.
Becky Klein,
Yes?
Sherry Peters,
Yes.
Diane Hahn,
Yes.
Diana Larson,
yes,
Dennis Minnick,
Yes.
The next one would be recognition. Awards.
Becky Klein,
Yes?
Sherry Peters,
Yes.
Dennis Minnick,
Yes.
Diana Larson,
yes,
Diane Hahn,
Yes.
The fourth one is political activity of employees.
Becky Klein,
Yes?
Sherry Peters,
Yes.
Dennis Minnick,
Yes.
Diana Larson,
no,
Diane Hahn.
Yes.
Thank you. Whistleblower protection.
Becky Klein,
Yes?
Sherry Peters,
Yes.
Dennis Minnick,
Yes.
Diana Larson.
yes,
Diane Hahn,
Yes.
And compliance and confidentiality.
Becky Klein,
Yes?
Sherry Peters,
Yes.
Dennis Minnick,
Yes.
Diana Larson.
yes.
Diane Hahn.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you,
for
Lori.
your input on all of this, everyone. All right, director's reports. Lee's changes in staff position.
Yeah. Excuse me. In November, we had 3 new hires, including the marketing and design specialist I mentioned earlier, and our new manager here at the Harrisonville branch. We had 1 retirement. Our only current opening, I think, still as of today, is the Drexel custodial position. We've got signs up hoping to entice someone to want to do that position. But yeah, in December we sort of wrapped up our programming year. Statistics are usually pretty high as far as attendance for a lot of the holiday themed stuff, so I mentioned that in here. Budget approvals is what Robin and I have been working on, and we've divvied up branches' personnel budgets and programming budgets, and we're able to increase their programming budgets a little bit. They'll get all those numbers at our branch manager meeting tomorrow. But the goal being to do what we did this year and, use it wisely and have some left over, but enough to pay people that work here. So we are in the middle of preparing to add becoming a fingerprinting agency for companies doing hiring and background checks. I've been working with the NRC branch to sort of prepare and train people on that, kind of in the middle of it, but people are passing their background checks to become trained on how to do fingerprinting. We're working with Idemia is the name of the company. They have they're a biometrics company that has the current state fingerprinting contract. So more to come on that, but hopefully that'll be something that we've talked about since not being able to move ahead with becoming passport facilities to add a service. And if it goes well at NRC, we'd probably look at where else we could add that.
Will we charge for that?
There is a fee that people using it pay.
Okay.
Most of them will pay ahead of time they
To
can
the
pay
company.
on site to the company, and we get I believe it's $3
It's $3.
per session. I mean,
Not
these,
in it for the money.
No, you're not
No.
in it for the money, but
but,
it'll be helpful to people that are applying to
Sure.
be substitute teachers and things like
yeah,
that.
teachers, truck drivers,
Yeah.
government employment.
Foster
Mhm.
Yeah,
families.
foster. Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah, so a little bit of a cost recovery that we'll get. But the service, each one should theoretically take like 3 to 5 minutes, so it's not
Okay.
a huge commitment of time for each one. And we'll just see how popular it is and adjust. And then the bookmobile is being is at Transwest being given maintenance. So our lobby stops are being done by the van until March, when the bookmobile will start back up again. But we went and visited the bookmobile yesterday, and they're in the middle of resealing and caulking and replacing batteries and stuff like that. So a lot of latches seemed to have broken in the last year. So replacing door latches and stuff like that. But it should be back in service in March.
Other director updates, Robin?
Yeah, got a few things. Last fall, Jana, our youth services coordinator, she applied for a grant through the state library to support our summer library programming. And we found out last week that she got that grant. It's for $15,750. Yeah, she's gonna be able to bring in 3 big name performers for all 6 locations. So if you may have heard of Mr. Stinky Feet
Mm-hmm.
and Dino Odell,
Mhm.
and then Science City will be coming and doing programming. And then that's also going to fund some collection development. She wants to bolster our print collection and digital collections for dinosaur themed fiction and nonfiction youth materials, just to support, because that's the general theme for summer library program. So we're really excited about that. And then just a brief update on the Harrisonville building project. The pre-bid meeting for the general contractors was last Thursday. I think you
I went there, the room was almost full.
Yeah, 11 general contractors and 5
Wow.
subcontractors came by, which when I talked to Joe afterwards, he was very encouraged by that. And he also continues to follow up with interested contractors to answer questions and get a feel for whether or not they may submit. So we're hopeful that we'll get, 3 to 5 bids by the February 3rd deadline. And then, just a reminder, we'll vet those candidates and then bring you guys a recommendation in the February regular meeting so that we can select a general contractor for the project, and then hopefully we're breaking ground shortly thereafter. So, and then we're resuming. We've had quite a long break of our meetings with architects once they got most of all of that building design and site planning and all that stuff done and submitted. So now we're picking up here at the end of February for furniture, which I think is one of the funner parts to do. And now we've got our new Harrisonville branch manager, so she'll be able to be in part of those meetings too. So, and then for the Pleasant Hill Storywalk project, we have posted a request for sealed bids for the asphalt work. And so that's on our website now, and Ian is also reaching out to any local asphalt contractors that he can find to let them know about the opportunity. He's also going to do a pre-bid meeting for them here on February 4th, I think around noon, if there's anyone that has questions or wants to find out more about that project. So what we're going to do with we're doing that as a sealed bid process. So also in the February meeting, we'll open the bids, but we won't ask you to vote on that. In that meeting, I'll put an executive session to discuss bids after that meeting, and then in March during the regular meeting, you can select the asphalt contractor. But the specifications in the bid indicate that the work would start no later than April 13th and be completed no later than May 22nd, barring excusable delays, which I think
Weather.
weather is gonna be.
It's gotta be a certain temperature.
Right,
Or you
right.
can't lay asphalt.
So, and then just an update on the sewer repairs over at Drexel. I updated you on, I think, in your packet. The landlord is now handling that, so he's got a plumbing company that just came out yesterday or today
Came out today, this afternoon.
to scope out the project. And so once we know what they plan to do and how long that's going to take, we might end up, if it's going to have to be when we would normally be open, we're probably closed because we don't want to have the branch open with no restroom facilities. But we'll see when we get more detail on that. And then the last thing, you've got that green sheet that Lori passed out to you. We just got that from the collector when we got our revenue disbursement, and it tells you basically all of the political subdivisions, the impact the senior citizen tax freeze had on 2025 for them, but we're listed in there. So for us specifically, we received $86,826.17 in revenue we would have received without that, which that's perfectly manageable for us. So. And that's all I have.
Okay, any questions for Robin or Lee? Okay, the next thing is the CCPL Foundation. I'm gonna ask Robin to do that. I had a grandmother responsibility that evening and I went to that instead.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't prepared to do it. I'm trying to remember what. Well, okay. So it was the annual meeting. So they elected officers, and actually all the folks that were already in positions kept their positions. So they just resumed that. They are looking for new members, new foundation members, because we've had several people that have moved out of Cass County, and I believe you've got a total of 12. Is it 12
We can
people?
have up to 12 and we're down to about 5 or 6.
Less than 10 for
Yeah.
sure. So, any interested folks,
It'd be nice
basically-
if we had one from each branch.
right, or at least in general geographic parts
yes.
of the county would be
Yes.
great. And so what is it like around the Drexel area that we could use somebody?
Yes, Archie.
Or
No, we got plenty from Archie. Could use some in the north.
Pleasant Hill
Pleasant
area,
Hill-
I think.
Pleasant Hill has no one, I
Yeah.
don't think.
So that's one thing. They're also interested in really reviving the Friends group and kind of figuring out what kind of things like the Friends group could do to support the library versus what the foundation does. So, I just recommended that they work on getting their foundation members built up, and then maybe they could create a little committee that could work on planning for the Friends group and then see. So I think that's the thing they really like to focus on this year.
Okay.
That was the big stuff from that
Thank you.
meeting. Mhm.
Thank you.
So what's the difference between the Friends group and the foundation?
The foundation would be more in charge of raising additional funds to supplement library activities, summer reading program particularly. The Friends would be advocates for the library, more of advocating out there in the public for the library at the state level too, the Missouri Library and things like that.
I think there's also desire just to have a little bit more hands on deck for bigger things like the book sale. That's a lot for a smaller group of the foundation who's limited in the size they can be. Whereas if you've got more friends that are wanting to actively contribute, then they could potentially volunteer some time to
Right.
help. Yeah.
Right. All right. Any trustee comments? Dennis, Sherry, Diane, or Diana?
Just kudos to the 81%
Mhm.
and the way you guys are being careful with the money.
Thank you.
I want the public to know
Mhm.
that there's all that left.
Yes. All right. I will entertain a motion to go to executive session for legal and personnel, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Diana. Diane.
And I'll second.
All right, Diana will second to go to legal 610.021.1 and personnel 610.021.13. Lori, would you give us a roll call, please?
Becky Vaughn,
Yes.
Sherry Peters.
Yes.
Dennis Minnick,
Yes.
Diana Larson.
Yes.
Diana Hahn.
Yes. All right, then we will adjourn to closed session.